Do we get another sounder, Kelley, for our
yeah, we do. Come on, it's the Texans edition.
Texans edition. Let's run it.
32 teams, 32 shows. Can the Texans be better than they were last year? Probably just a little bit.
That's a nice lead-in. That's a very professionally done ad-lib lead-in there.
Actually, segment's just done now. Probably just a little bit better.
Yeah, I was going to say, that diction by you, the word usage, pristine. Okay, Houston Texans, Matt. What are we thinking?
Houston Texans. Oh, how I love you, Houston Texans. The greatest just betting windfall last year. Just betting unders and unders and unders and unders. 4-13, third in the AFC South. Davis Mills, 11 games at quarterback. Tyrod Taylor had 6 starts as well. Of course, they are going to go with Davis Mills this year. Lovie Smith in as head coach. Pep Hamilton is going to be your offensive coordinator. They will not have a defensive coordinator, as Lovie Smith has said that he is going to be calling the defensive plays for this squad. So Lovie Smith coach, Pep Hamilton offensive coordinator, and then Lovie Smith is going to handle the defensive side of the ball for them. Now, they were fairly active in free agency, but it was no real kind of blockbuster moves or anything, right? I mean, the trade of Deshaun Watson, everyone, I don't have to tell you about that. Traded Deshaun Watson, that's kind of out there. But like on the people that are coming in, they got an edge rusher in Jerry Hughes. They got one in Mario Addison. They bring in a right guard in A.J. Cann. A corner in Steven Nelson, linebacker in Jalen Reeves-Maben. They bring in Marlon Mack at running back.
He's still around.
Yes. They bring in safety M.J. Stewart, another edge rusher in Rasheem Green. They bring in Kyle Allen to be the backup quarterback there. So, I mean, like, look, they did some stuff in free agency. I mean, like, there's a lot of moves there, but it's like, nothing that really moves the meter for you or for me or for anyone really when it's all said and done. On the way out, of course, as we mentioned, Deshaun Watson traded. I know that. You know that. Everyone knows that. We don't talk about it. But Tyrod Taylor signed with the Giants, so he's now over in New York. Terrence Mitchell, one of their better players actually on the defensive side of the ball, one of their corners, he's now with Buffalo. Safety Justin Reed is out of town. Safety A.J. Moore is out of town. DeMarcus Walker is out of town at one of their edge rushers. Corner Lonnie Johnson is gone. Defensive lineman Jacob Martin is gone. So there's a lot of out, and the in that they brought in isn't really kind of that one-for-one trade-off, right? Like there were some pretty big, impactful guys, and you're saying how impactful is a guy for a team that went 4-13. I get it. But there were a lot of impactful guys that left and not a lot of impactful guys that are coming in. Now, the draft was, I would say, a pretty good draft for them, actually. Like, you get a corner in Derek Stingley, you get an offensive guard in Kenyon Green, you get a safety in Jalen Petrie, then you come back in the second round with your second round pick, and you take John Mechie from Alabama at wide receiver, your third round pick of linebacker Christian Harris. So I mean, like you're trying to fill positions where you have need, right? I mean, they take running back Damian Pierce in the 4th round. They took a defensive tackle and Thomas Booker in the 5th round. So you're looking at a team that did go into the draft trying to plug the holes that were obvious, right? Like the obvious plugging of the holes there. So I'm not completely saying that this was a bust of an offseason for them. I mean, I understand anytime you trade away Deshaun Watson, right? I mean, it's not a win by any stretch of the imagination, right? I mean, but they did get a bunch of picks. They did get a stockpile of stuff that maybe they can start to build for the long term here. But I also think what they did is they've set themselves up to be a really young or old team. Like at certain positions, they're really old, and the other positions are super young. And with that, what that gives us, Ben, is the perfect formula to be one of the two or three worst teams in the league, which you really want to be this year, because Davis Mills is not the future of this team at quarterback, right? So while the players are going to play hard, we know this. The front office has put this team in a position where it should be fairly easy to lose some games. Like it should be fairly easy for them to go out, and I would imagine probably look about like they did, like, the 4-13-ish, the 5-12-ish, something like that, and so that's kind of where I think that this team ends up when it's all said and done, because there's just, certain position groups are super, super young. You normally don't get high production out of super, super young position groups. And then some of the position groups are super old. And typically when guys are on the downhill, one, production declines, and then two, also injury obviously spikes a ton, whenever guys are just older. So from a player personnel standpoint, I think that this is without a doubt one of the worst on paper teams in the NFL. I won't necessarily say definitely the worst team on paper in the NFL. We still have the Jags out there as far as like teams that you would consider to be the absolute worst whenever you look on paper, but they are right there, and we'll talk about where all the deficiencies lie whenever we come back on the other side.
Right, and for what it's worth, you see the minus 3,500
Yeah.
to miss the playoffs, minus 280 favorites to be the fourth last place team there in the AFC South. The Lovie Smith conversation is an interesting one too, because you had this guy in David Culley who was a pretty obtuse as a guy who was just a career assistant, like an assistant special teams guy and just a general guy, never really been at a head coaching position at any level. And now you at least have Lovie Smith, who does have experience. Hasn't been a head coach for 7 years, so that is an interesting thing to bring up. We'll discuss that next. And what we really expect to see out of a Houston team that, as Matt just laid out, doesn't have a whole lot to like on paper, but where will the Texans finish? We'll discuss next here on Primetime Action.
All right, so
back to the Texans.
Last year, as you would imagine, this is going to come as a shock to nobody. 28th overall team DVOA, 30th offense, 23rd defense. The only reason they're not the absolute worst team overall DVOA is they actually had the ninth rated special teams. So that actually boosted them up to 28th overall in all of this. If you look at this, there's going to be no favors with the schedule either. It's the 5th toughest schedule in all of the NFL. And so what that does is Warren Sharp has them projected at 4.45 wins. This is, like we said, we kind of expect them to be in that 4-ish, 5-ish win range yet again. And the reason being is because since they're so bad, the layups, there's none. Like, the Jags are not going to be a layup for this version of this Houston Texans team. So it's just it's going to be very, very rough. And if you look at that schedule, Ben, and you start to try to count wins in your head, if you want to give them one of the games with the Jaguars, or maybe if you want to give them 2 of the games with the Jaguars. So now you're at 2 wins. What other team is going to be so incredibly bad where you would actually chalk up additional wins? I mean, like, could the Commanders be absolutely atrocious? Could Carson Wentz be one of the worst quarterbacks in the league? Maybe so. So let's give them that one. There's 3 wins right there. The Giants, maybe Daniel Jones really is just absolute garbage. And so, okay, let's give them the Giants. Where's the 5th win? Where's the 6th win? Like, this feels, again, just like the best case scenario would be a 5-win season, and you would almost feel like you won the Super Bowl with a 5-win season.
The Bears and Chargers or the Bears and Jaguars in those first 5 weeks. They're both on the road, but they both almost feel huge. Like, you've got to get at least 1 win there. I feel like, but unless this season's going to spiral out of control real quick. It's always tough. It's always tough to play this game. I mean, Matt, I know last year you went just heavy under on the win total. It's just hard to play that kind of game with a team that's this bad, because they're going to be dogs in every single one of these games.
And the part that makes me nervous is that Week 10, Week 11, Giants, Commanders, and then coming back to getting the Jags again at home at 17. This makes me feel like if I bet the alt under, I'm going to be sweating a Texans-Jaguars game in Week 17, and I don't want to live that life. Like, I don't want to live that life. So
the game on CBS that goes to like 4% of the country.
Yeah, I don't want to live that life.
And then is there there's even a remote chance maybe the Colts are resting guys come that last week? Like,
right.
Yeah.
We know the Colts are not.
Who wants to live that life?
And I'm bullish on the Colts, right? So like that would make perfect sense if it plays out like
correct.
I think, right? So that would also make perfect sense, Kelley. You make a really good point right there. I mean, their roster, it's Pro Football Focus has them 28th power rated head into the season. The only teams that they're ahead of are the Panthers, Falcons, Bears, and Seahawks, and that was before the power ratings came out before the Panthers acquired Baker Mayfield. So you'd have to imagine that they're ahead of them now. So the only teams they have them ahead of are the Falcons, the Bears, and the Seahawks. Davis Mills was the 35th graded quarterback out of 37 qualifiers last year. So again,
well, I wanted to ask you on that. Like, what's your over/under number of games he plays? I mean, they have Kyle Allen is in the mix, Jeff Driscoll, Kevin Hogan. It doesn't appear as though there is any reason they would not want to play him.
That's what I'm
despite
saying.
the
The
bad
incentive to play him, the worse he is, the better. Right.
Yeah.
Well, and you have to find out what you have this year, right?
Well, it won't matter anyway because they're drafting a quarterback regardless.
I mean, I would think so too.
It doesn't matter.
I would think so too, but that's where it starts.
Davis Mills could look like Joe Burrow, and they're drafting a quarterback. They have no confidence in Davis Mills. Like they are drafting a quarterback 100% of the time. So it's better for them to run him out and have him look like complete trash. And then they have the built-in excuse of, well, we spent a third-round pick on him last year or 2 years ago. And we needed to see what we got, right? I mean, like we needed to see what we.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, they're going to keep rolling him out there, partially because they do need to see what they have. But I'm with you. Yes, I think they know that he's worse than 7 guys they might be able to draft next season.
For sure.
But yes, I don't think there's to Ben's point. There is some depth that if you were playing in if every win mattered for them, right? Yes, I think there's some quarterbacks behind him that could absolutely challenge him for the starting job. I think Kyle Allen, maybe most specifically. But yeah, what's the point? You might as well play Davis Mills as many games as possible, see what you have, and hopefully he just kind of keeps
offensive line, 22nd rated. Laramie Tunsil's the only good player on the line. Everybody else, middling or worse. Dead last running back group. Like, listen to this. Listen to what they're running and rolling in the season with. Marlon Mack, Rex Burkhead, Royce Freeman, and then their 4th round pick in Damian Pierce.
Those are some names.
Pierce is probably gonna win the job. Like if he doesn't, then he should quit football because it's Marlon Mack, Rex Burkhead, and Royce Freeman.
And you already know what Rex Burkhead's role is going to be. Like it's nothing. It's going to be nothing more than third down back.
Right. Then the pass catchers 30th overall because you got Brandon Cooks, but then you got nobody else. Right. Like Brandon Cooks is fine, but then Nico Collins was the 74th wide receiver out of 115 last year. How's Mechie going to look coming back from this injury? Is he even going to Is he even going to be able to play at the beginning of the season? And even if they do, achieve greatness for whatever their potential might be, can Davis Mills even get him the ball? That's the other thing here. 30th rated defensive line, 32nd rated secondary, mainly because they have to start 2 rookies and a bunch of old guys. So it is going to be real tough sledding.
31st at the linebacker spot. Yeah. And that's the thing where you look at it and you say, well, on the surface, okay, we know the offense is bad, but Lovie Smith, he's at least won games before with really, really bad offense and quarterback play. But that's where the issue comes in is the defense. It's like, what can you realistically expect out of them?
In the secondary in a passing league, right? So you're starting 2 rookies. Desmond King's on his 3rd team in 5 seasons. Steven Nelson's on his 4th team in 5 seasons. And Eric Murray is coming off a season where he graded 50.9, right? I mean, it's 2 rookies and 3 journeymen, essentially. And it's going to be a slog, man. I mean, it's an under or pass.
Would you lay the 280 on them finishing last in the division? Behind Jackson?
I mean, it's tempting.
If you really had the pockets and 3,500 you lay to miss the playoffs, that's a whole other conversation.
Visit VSiN.com to get current odds, listen for free, find showtimes, and download VSiN sports betting podcasts.